Okay, so just got back from a spring bear hunt in Idaho. Pretty fortunate, one of the guys got a real nice bear. The most common question I get is, what do you do with bears? Well, I eat them. It's one of my favorite meats. One of my favorite cuts of meat is picanha. So I feel like right now it makes sense to cook up some picanha. I'll go through it with you guys, kind of show you some of the subtle differences between bear and different times of the year for the bear, things like that. I have another video that is us deboning it in the field. Right here, this is the back, what would be called a roast or anything else. Basically the top of the back leg of the bear. Two different things we got here: picanha, which is going to be your top sirloin cap, and then this will be your sirloin and bottom sirloin, all that. This can come out really good smoked. It can be really good in a slow cooker, just like you would a regular roast. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Most of this I'm gonna end up grinding. This one, on the other hand, the picanha, this chunk of meat, whether it's beef, bear, anything else, is gonna be super tender, have a ton of fat in it, and break down really good. You can see this thing just flew out. Still got some sticks and pine needles stuck to it. We're not gonna worry about any of that. We can get rid of all of it as we trim it. This side is our picanha. First thing we need to do, I'm just gonna separate it out. There's not much holding it together. It's just this little piece. Putting this back in the game bag because we'll cook that up later. Part of the picanha, and this is a spring bear. Spring bears carry a lot less fat. If this was a fall bear, this cap would probably be 1.5 inches thick or more, depending on the size of the bear. Spring bears, much less fat, much easier to trim up. And we want to try and preserve as much of this fat as possible because that's part of the picanha. So I'm just gonna basically like try and fillet off this very top layer where it's kind of touched the air. This thing's been in a game bag. It was on the ground. You try and keep it clean when you're butchering, but in the field it's almost impossible. So I am just gonna take the very top layer of everything off of here. That way I know none of this meat has ever touched the air. Anytime we're field dressing, we do our absolute best to prevent anything getting on this meat, but it's impossible to keep everything off of it. Nice thing with a big fat fall bear is this layer is so thick that we can take one layer of it off to clean it and then throw that out, and then the next layer that we peel off of it, we can use that for all of our rendering down into tallow. This bear's been hibernating. She probably just came out of hibernation maybe a week ago. Just starting to eat again. Not a lot of fat. This bear was way up in a wilderness area, and all it's feeding on right now is the freshest, greenest grass that's available. This bear has never been exposed to eating garbage. My assumption, looking at this meat and smelling this meat, is it's never been carnivorous. It's very, very clean, nice smelling bear. You will sometimes run into bears that when you start to cut into them, they have a very distinct kind of a rough smell to them. I try and avoid hunting those areas so that we always know the meat's gonna be the best meat there is. Bears, in my opinion, they're very food specific, like all the way down to the animal. You could have 3 bears in the same area where one of them is gorging itself on all the blackberries in the fall. Springtime, they're all pretty much just on grass. It's just what their body eats. But they will start to eat the skunk cabbage a lot too, and if they get into that, it can make the meat a little funky, but not bad. But it seems like each individual bear, once it locks into a food source, that's pretty much all it eats. Whatever they're locked into at that moment, that's gonna be a lot of what they eat. Just an interesting thing that I've noticed. Okay, we got this thing nice and cleaned up. For this one right now, I'm just cooking this for 2 of us, my wife and I. I'm gonna save this bigger chunk with the backstrap in it. We're gonna cook that up tomorrow with some other stuff. A piece about here, it's about 1.5 pounds of meat. I wanna show you this meat. It's just a deep, deep red, beautiful, beautiful meat. There's a little bit of marbling in there, not a ton, but not bad for a young animal. It's gonna break down really nice. But just that color, it's so rich in nutrients and iron. This bear is going to be delicious. Okay, so this piece right here, I'm gonna set this aside. We're gonna use that for tomorrow. I'm gonna just kind of let it dry out in the fridge, air dry a little bit. I'll trim it up a little bit nicer tomorrow, and we'll make a big meal with that. For today, I'm working with this, and I'm gonna make some steaks. Everyone talks about bears, and they try and bring up the trichinosis, parasites, things like that. Look, it's no worse than anything else you're gonna eat. You just have to handle it properly. You have to cook it properly. This bear in particular, I have no concerns with, just because it seems like such a nice clean bear. But we're gonna prepare it the same no matter what. We're gonna make sure and get it to 165. It's gonna be cooked plenty, nothing surviving it. So later on, if you freeze some bear for 90 days, 6 months, something like that, at 5 degrees, get it super frozen. I'm completely comfortable with eating bear medium rare at that point. But this bear has not been frozen. This is as fresh as it gets right here. And I don't want to take any chances. So how I'm going to do it, I'm going to get my salt, get my pepper. That's about all I'm going to use on this bear because I like the flavor of the meat so much that I don't want to take away from that. I'm going to get a pan really hot with a bunch of butter in it. I'm going to sear this outside to a nice brown, heavy crispy layer. Then I'm going to take the bear and put it in the oven at 350. I'm going to leave it into there until I get the temperature up to about 155, maybe 160. At that point, I'll pull it out, set it aside to rest. It'll continue to go up for a few minutes, so it'll get it up to that 165 mark. Then it'll rest, lock in all those juices, and we're going to have a delicious chunk of bear to eat. So on a lot of meats, I like to put some sort of binder, like oil of some sort, butter, avocado, mayo, mustard, some sort of binder. Bear, this thing, the meat is pretty sticky just from the bear fat and the bear grease. So I really don't worry too much about that. It really cooks nicely just by itself. And I'm going to go pretty heavy on it. Salted, peppered. Now it's just about getting that nice, beautiful sear on it. I'm gonna get a pan hot, and I'll be back in a second. Throw some pretty big slab of butter in here. Our pan is hot first. Get the butter in and get that nice sizzle. Again, please don't judge me. I'm using these funky pans and a plastic spatula. That's all I have. I'm in an Airbnb. My options are limited. Roll it around in that butter. Crisp, sizzling crunch that I'm talking about. Alright, so here's our seared bear. This thing is absolutely beautiful. So we're just going to take this thing and throw it right in the oven. Alright, so our piece of bear meat is out of the oven. I let it sit for a few minutes, and right now I'm just going to cut a little bit. And this is exactly what you're looking for. Super nice, juicy meat. Ton of flavor. You can't buy meat like that in the store.